Fact, the shoes that the defendant was wearing that morning when his wife was murdered are now missing. Were you ever able to find the shoes that the defendant was wearing on the morning of July 12th?
No, sir.
So he never asked for any of his shoes on that day?
Me personally, no, sir.
6:26, he leaves that parking lot, and with him leave those shoes that have never been found. Is that a coincidence? Is that a coincidence that the shoes the defendant was wearing on the morning that his wife was murdered are missing?
Did you ever ask Brad what shoes he was wearing, Harris Teeter, on July 12th?
No, sir, I did not.
And Detective, with respect to the question of the shoes that Mr. Cooper is seen wearing in Harris Teeter, have you at any point in any of your notes or in any of your narratives noted that you were searching for those shoes or that you were unable to find those shoes?
No, sir.
Fact, Nancy Cooper never left that house the morning of July 12th.
So how is it that the next day when you saw the flyer, you believed it was her?
Because she was so close to me, and she had an elongated face. That's what drew my attention, that long face, dark hair pulled back.
Okay.
But the detective that came a month ago was interested in what they showed me, what type of pictures they showed me. How did I know that the girl I picked out was the girl? I said, because I recognized her. It was the same elongated face.
Now, immediately off the bat, 9:28 that morning, you see the defendant go into that Lowe's home improvement store and buy a drop cloth. Question you have to ask yourself, is this a coincidence? Is this a coincidence that the day that Nancy Cooper is murdered, a drop cloth is purchased by her husband in the midst of a huge fight?
Nancy not bringing a drop cloth when she painted, correct?
That's correct.
Do you recall that she had actually dropped paint on the floor on Wednesday when she was painting at your house?
Yes.
And she ended up on her hands and knees getting that off of the floor.
That's correct. We did it together.
And then on Friday, you explained to Detective Dismukes that you had actually, on Saturday, that you had actually put out a drop cloth of your own.
For the front room paint job?
That you had put out a drop cloth for the work to be done Saturday.
I don't recall having used a drop cloth, but if I testified to that effect in 2008, then I'm sure that my testimony would be accurate.
.05, he's on Cisco's website. Meanwhile, across the street, Nancy Cooper's looking out of Diana Duncan's house across the street to see if the lights are on. Is that a coincidence? Why is she hesitant to go home?
Do you recall saying that Nancy didn't seem scared at the party?
She did not seem scared.
When Nancy said everyone's asleep, the word that she used when looking over at the house was everyone. She didn't say he is asleep.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
And finally, when describing Brad to you, Nancy said he's a good person.
Yes, she was talking about his family and said he was a good person.
Thank you.
And then there's that 6:40 phone call. That phone call the defendant relies on and says, you can't convict him because there's this phone call. And the defendant says, well, there's no evidence that the defendant could have faked it, or there's no evidence in the house of the ways that it could be faked. Well, yes, there was one ingredient missing from how the defendant faked that phone. And you heard Paul Giroux talk about all the different ways that he could make that happen. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it's clear that he had the ability. And the defendant says, well, anyone could fake a phone call. Absolutely true. And then when you add to that to the fact that it's somebody who has a voice ability and expertise in voice that only 152 people in the world have, that makes it even more likely that he faked the 6:40 phone call.
Everything you're saying about the 6:40 a.m. phone call being set up, or however you want to characterize it, is pure speculation.
I don't believe it's pure speculation. I believe that I was shown several ways it could have been done, and that's what I was basing it on.
You don't have a single log entry from any router saying that that's what happened, do you?
No, I don't know.
You don't have any kind of phone records that indicate that's what happened, do you?
No.
You don't have any expert that can come in here and say that that is what happened, do you?
No, I don't.
So now moving from that phone, let's talk about Nancy Cooper's phone. The phone that Jim Young made a mistake on. And the defendant wants this to exonerate him. Now, these are all the documents that Jim Young went through. The search warrant to go into the phone, the court order to get the puck code. The response from AT&T responded with a puck code, 837-73549. Now, is this fabricated? Is this fabricated from the Subpoena Compliance Center? All these documents would have to be fabricated in order for you to believe that Jim Young did it on purpose.
Now, have you ever known a situation where police have made the mistake of putting in an incorrect password to the point where they have deleted the data off of the phone?
I have never seen a cell phone wiped out. I've seen officers make calls on it that may have gotten rid of a few of the later entries, because, you know, once your queue fills up, it starts spitting them out. But I have never seen in my life a cell phone or piece of evidence, be it GPS, be it a computer, totally wiped out during an investigation.
I would say is that the only opinion that you've heard that there's tampering in this courtroom is from Mr. Kurtz. No one has testified from that witness stand. It is their opinion that that computer was tampered with.
It's indicative of someone trying to find out if a particular computer exists or how to get to another computer.
And that's at a time when Mr. Cooper is not home, correct?
Yes, based on my understanding.
So that means he's on the computer, and then he goes to do something else in that house. Remember, this is a guy who doesn't do laundry.
Do you recall in the affidavit you discussed the extent to which Brad helped around the house?
I recall, yes.
You recall saying that Brad never did laundry?
That was what I was aware of, yes.
Sometime after that, in the following month, you sat for a deposition.
Yes.
Right. Do you recall at that time, you said that, in fact, Brad did his own laundry?
I may have said that Brad did his own laundry.
Incident. And then that evening is the frenetic search for that dress, a black dress according to the defendant, or a blue dress according to the defendant. And what did the defendant tell you that Nancy had worn that night?
Brad advised that Nancy had worn a blue summer dress. We're unable to locate the dress. Myself, Detective Daniels, or Brad Cooper, we're unable to locate the dress. And I asked Brad Cooper, are you sure about the color of the dress? And he advised that he was certain, or quite certain about it. Brad Cooper came back into the house, and he had a male and a female with him. I later learned the identity of these people as being Craig and Diana Duncan.
At that point, did you hear a discussion about a different color dress?
Yes, sir. Brad had asked Craig and Diana what Nancy was wearing at the dinner party, and Diana advised that Nancy had on a black summer dress and flip-flops.